Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our Tropical Weather Outlook video for today, Monday, July 7th. With almost said June, but just remember it is July 7th, 2025. Sometimes it happens, you have brain farts, but here we are, July 7th, start of the first full week of July, after this past weekend was July 4th weekend. Hope all of you enjoyed it. Let's start off by taking a look at the National Hurricane Center homepage in the Atlantic right now. And today we have the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Chantal, which made landfall early yesterday morning, I believe, over portions of the northern South Carolina and southern North Carolina coastline. And I'm going to show you some interesting things over inland North Carolina right now, but Chantal was a pretty impactful storm, not just in the aspect of heavy rain and winds, but especially flooding through portions of inland North Carolina. And now it is a post-tropical storm bringing flash flooding and heavy rain to portions of the Northeast, and then it's going to continue to move on out to the Northeast here and eventually be completely out of our hair, and we won't have to worry about it as we head into the rest of the week. But we still have Chantal on the map right now, but probably not going to be much of a concern anymore very shortly here. So let's go on to the Eastern Pacific, and also the Eastern Pacific here. Activity kind of dying down. This is Invest 96E, which not long ago, a few days ago, had as much as a 90% chance of development over the next week. That is now dropped today to a 10% chance of development in the next week. So Invest 96E here is unlikely to develop, and we also have another area of interest behind it that also has seen a drop in chance of development too. The Eastern Pacific has suddenly become a lot less favorable for development, and a lot of people would say that it was about time for that to happen, especially given the very rapid-fire gravy train that we had pretty much since the beginning of last month. It was only a matter of time before things were going to slow down in the Eastern Pacific. But I do want to bring your attention today, though, to kind of the leftovers of Tropical Storm Chantal, because boy, have the last few days really taught us the lesson of something that I was warning about for the last several days as we were tracking Chantal, not just in North Carolina, but also lessons too from Texas. As you can see on the National Weather Service homepage, we have flood watches in effect for very large portions of central and southern Texas right now, associated with the heavy rainfall which has been ongoing for the past several days in Texas, largely attributed to parts of the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry, which occurred in the Bay of Campeche just over a week ago. If you remember that slop of a storm. Its remnants made it into Texas, and it also interacted with some frontal energy as well, and it sparked a very heavy rainfall event over Texas. And as a result, we had a very devastating situation with flooding. Over 80 people lost their lives, multiple dozen people lost their lives, and despite what people are saying, yes, there were warnings in advance. The National Weather Service put out flood warnings, and it was advertised, but once again, people did not heed the warnings because people, as I've been saying, and I always said this before, the number one killer is tropical, and I mention it because the number one killer, and again, it's been proven once again over the past several days, flooding and rainfall tends to be the number one killer when it comes to natural disasters, especially with the natural disaster like tropical cyclones. And I mention that because when we talk about hurricanes and tropical storms, people typically think of the category it is, how strong will the winds be, but they never ever talk about the rainfall unless it is quite literally being advertised that it is a life-threatening situation. And maybe we need to start doing that more in advertising these flooding events as being life-threatening. But often the warnings are there. And once again, despite what you see online, the warnings were there. Although I will say a little bit less for North Carolina here, because we also had bad flooding in Texas and with North Carolina. As the remnants of Tropical Storm Chantal moved inland, we had a lot of flooding. In fact, over portions of North Carolina right now, inland North Carolina, and this is what especially gets a lot of people off guard when it comes to these flooding events caused by tropical systems. They especially tend to happen inland of the coast. And most people think with tropical cyclones, even with hurricanes, once it makes landfall, it's over. No need to worry about it anymore, and that's just simply not the case. There are flood warnings right now and flood advisories, maybe, although I got to look at these specific warnings. Let's actually zoom in here on eastern North Carolina. This is the forecast office out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and there are flood warnings in effect. Why? Because as you can see here, this is the observations for rivers across North Carolina, and there are multiple rivers here that are at or well above flooding capacity. In fact, there's one river here. This is the Haw River near Benham, North Carolina. Actually reached record flooding capacity at 21, or this was the old record. The old record was 21.8 inches, and earlier today they reached a value as high as, oh, this is actually in feet, not inches, so that just goes to show how significant this is. The old record was 21.8 feet. Earlier this morning, they reached a new record of 22.4 feet. And the flooding rain, unlike Texas, although I guess it could have been much better warned, but the rainfall threat, I mentioned that there would be a rainfall threat with Chantal, especially as it was moving inland, and that it would be an inland threat and not just something that we had to worry about the coasts. But the rainfall also seemed to overperform quite a bit with Chantal as it was heading inland. And I think the official forecast was only for 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rainfall just inland of the coast over portions of central and eastern North Carolina. And the official totals in some places I saw earlier today, should have brought up the graphic, but some places in central and eastern North Carolina inland ended up seeing as much as 8 to 9 inches. So never underestimate flooding and rainfall. And as I always say, they are the number one killer when it comes to tropical cyclones. And speaking of the flooding rain, as I've said and I showed you earlier, the remnants of Chantal are over the mid-Atlantic now. And through the rest of the day today, there will be a flash flooding risk for the Northeast, stretching all the way from northern Virginia and the DC corridor through Philadelphia and into northern New Jersey. There is a slight risk for flash flooding and general flash flooding risk that extends beyond that. So the overall impact from Chantal is not done just yet. In fact, I'll show you the satellite here. And you can see where the remnants of Chantal are right now over the mid-Atlantic. Obviously not organized like it was as a tropical storm when it was heading inland yesterday morning, but we still have convective activity associated with it. It's going to bring heavy rain, maybe some severe weather. I probably should have brought that up too. In fact, let's actually check right now and see, is it going to bring severe weather to the Northeast? No, there's no severe weather threat outlined for the mid-Atlantic today, but there is actually a severe weather threat for the Great Lakes and interior Northeast, so keep in mind of that. But there is the rainfall threat still. The impacts with Chantal are not done yet. So if you are in the Northeast through the rest of the evening, please keep in mind of the rainfall and don't let your guard down, especially, once again, as we saw, as I just showed you in North Carolina today and over the past several days in Texas. I really hope this is once again a wake-up call for people to start realizing just how much of a threat rainfall is, especially with these tropical systems, and not even, tropical systems as they're moving inland. But in the case of what happened in central Texas, where once again it was the remnants of Barry that ended up contributing to what caused a lot of heavy rainfall in Texas after Barry long died over Mexico over a week ago. I really hope this is a wake-up call that people start paying a lot closer attention to the rainfall threat when it comes to tropical systems, and I'll certainly help with that here on this channel as we go throughout the rest of the season, especially when it comes to more of these landfalling systems whenever we have them later on in the year. And I'm pretty sure we will probably have more major landfalling systems than Chantal. One of the biggest things I'll always remind you all is the rainfall. Again, it is my motto: rainfall is the #1 biggest killer. You cannot let you cannot let your guard down when it comes to that aspect. But now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at what's going on in the Atlantic over the next week. And luckily, we won't have to worry about any more major impacts in the Atlantic, at least in terms of tropical development over the next week. The GFS keeping things nice and quiet. In the Eastern Pacific, as I've said before, the models have seemingly downtrended with development in the Eastern Pacific over the last few days or so, especially with Invest 96E here, which you see on the GFS. Several days ago, the models were showing it becoming a powerful hurricane, or at least a pretty decent storm, well off the coast of Mexico, but obviously that has not happened. Although the GFS, as of the 12Z run today, they show some development occurring in the Pacific, probably that other 0-10 chance area that is also there. Maybe that still has a chance of development, and then after that, as we head into the next week, GFS still insisting that the Eastern Pacific will try to produce another named storm or two in the next week. So maybe the gravy train of activity might be continuing on in the Eastern Pacific, but for now, nothing major in terms of impacts to Mexico, and hopefully it stays that way for the foreseeable future. I want to bring you, though, to the European ensembles because not much of development is expected in the Atlantic right now, but I have seen some people mention today that the European does give another chance for something to potentially develop off the southeast coast, at least over the next week or so. And the chance is not great, but as you can see here by the European ensembles, they definitely have some sort of low pressure that tries to get going. I think the origin of the sort of weather system is already present right now. I think it's some sort of tropical wave or piece of energy that's east of the Bahamas. I'll have to check it, and I'll probably, keep you updated on it tomorrow. But I've seen some people mention that there is a probability that there might be something as we head into next week for something else trying to develop off the East Coast. Whether or not it happens, we'll see. The chance is low for now, but it is hurricane season. Obviously, you cannot keep your guard off, or you cannot let yourself get caught off guard. Especially after with Chantal, we just had that. So obviously, we wouldn't want to have any other impacts, but I'll definitely make sure to keep you informed and up to date with the tropics over the next several weeks. With that being said, I'm going to close it off for today here because there's obviously not much else going on. So I'm going to end it off and bring this online to you right now. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. I'll be back with more tomorrow.